Welcome to another episode on the channel. In today's video, part 2 of the Lincoln project. So we're just going to get it back together, detailed, and send it off to Ohio for it to live out the rest of its life. So let's get started. Okay, I've got it chained to our robust tree in the backyard. Well, it didn't come out as good as I had hoped, but that's a fairly strong area, so I'm not surprised. I've had luck doing that before on other cars, but for the 10 minutes that it took to try it out, no harm, no foul. So I'll stick the bumper cover on it, and we'll send it up to Ohio, and Dad can take it to his frame guy. Before I take it into the garage, I'm going to give it a quick whore bath. The thing is filthy, and I want to see, I know we've got a bunch of door dings, and I just want to see what kind of overall shape it's in. So we'll wash it and the bumper. Well, with a quick whore bath, the thing looks pretty good. It definitely could be cleaned up with a polish. It's a little bit dull, got some surface scratches, but it's almost 20 years old. Now we're gonna move on to putting the new exhaust under it. This is a good intermission spot. So I've got the exhaust out. Took literally 2 minutes. So sawzalled it off. The exhaust that I picked up came off of a front-wheel drive car, and this one's all-wheel drive, so it has a little heat shield that sits against the axle, or the rear end. So I guess I can grab my welder real quick and tack that back on. We can take a look under the car now. Got a lot more space. And it did spend 10 years in Illinois. It was sold new there, but it's really not that rusty. So being from Northeast Ohio, I know what a rusty car looks like. And this isn't bad. Got a little bit of surface rust on the control arms here. A little bit of flaky stuff, nothing bad. The body, really no rust, a little bit of surface rust here and there. And underneath here also, a little bit of surface rust, nothing bad. It's really in good shape. And if we take a look at the accident damage, we can get a better look at it here. So it shoved the reinforcement in a little bit, and there's a flange around the outside of this frame rail, so it bent the reinforcement around the flange, and that's what's bent on both sides. So there's no actual damage to the rail. It didn't shove anything forward. And looking from the outside here, there's no damage in this area forward. So this really should be a pretty easy repair once Dad gets it to his frame guy. He can straighten the flange out. The sheet metal back here is torn a little bit, but that's really not a big deal. There's no structural issues here. The installation went pretty smoothly overall. My heat shield lines up where it needs to be. I could have used a coupler and welded it, but the fuel tank is right here. So I didn't really want to mess with that. So I tried out this stainless band, and it seems to work okay. You've really got, it says to torque it down to 60 foot-pounds. That was not even close to enough to make this stiff enough where the whole thing wasn't moving. So I just set the impact on 3 and cranked it down as much as I could. And it seems pretty rigid now. So we'll start the car in a little bit, make sure there's no leaks. But I'm gonna lower it down, take the wheels off of it, and then I can put the back bumper on it. So now it looks pretty much like a car. The exhaust lines up where it should be. No issues there. So let's go ahead and start it and see if we have any exhaust leaks. All right, got the jump pack on it, so it should start now. I don't hear an exhaust leak. Yeah, I don't hear any exhaust leaks, so I think that's fine. Let's get it up in the air and do a maintenance inspection. Before we take a look at the car, I did pull a Carfax on it, and it's pretty lengthy. So we've got an accident in 2011, and then the accident that totaled it. So the first accident was in the front. Let's see, first owner owned it for 9 years in Illinois, up until 36,000 miles, and then 4 years in Georgia, up to 64,000, and then another 4 years at Georgia up to the current mileage. So vehicle was sold in Illinois. The first owner had a hood deflector put on it. So the plastic hood deflector is an actual Ford one. So probably an old person. Let's see, 7,000 miles, oil change, electrical system checked, oil change and electrical system checked, 14,000. Electrical check, damage, doesn't say how many miles, but that would have been between 18 and 21, so 20-ish thousand miles the first accident. And electrical system check, maintenance, oil, AC system checked, antifreeze flushed, cabin filter and air filter replaced, 35,000. AC checked again, electrical system checked, oil filter. Now, on the first page, along with the hood deflector, it says accessories installed. I wonder if that was also that aftermarket alarm system and that piece of garbage was draining the battery or doing something else. That could be very possible the way it was installed. Let's see, then it went to Georgia in 2017. Battery and charging system checked. Oil change and a transmission replacement. Transmission replaced at 60,000. Okay. Battery system checked. Oil change. Yeah, none of these are very far apart. It's like a few months here and there. I got oil change. Let's see, automatic transmission cooler flushed, torque converter replaced, transmission checked, transmission replaced, transmission fluid flushed at 75,000. So that first replacement transmission lasted, what did I say? It was right about 60,000. So another 15,000 and we got a second transmission. Oil change, and all of this stuff is at Ford dealers. Like all of these oil changes, the transmission replacement, those are all at Ford dealers. So the Sam's Club for a battery, but everything else is at a Ford dealer, its whole life. See, transmission checked again, tune-up, alternator replaced, oil change. Yeah, the oil was changed about a week before it was wrecked. So at least I don't have to do an oil change, again at the Ford dealer. Oil change and tire rotation. So this thing has had a ton of maintenance. Hopefully the transmission issues have been resolved, and with the shitty aftermarket alarm removed, hopefully that will keep any electrical gremlins at bay. So let's go take a look at the car. I've already driven it out through the yard when I was trying to straighten the rear bumper reinforcement, and that's a really good check if you're trying to listen for suspension noises. A yard has a lot of high frequency vibrations that excite like if you have a bad bushing, control arm bushing or something, that'll excite the control arm and really make a clunk. And I didn't hear anything in the car, no rattles or anything like that either. But let's take a look. We'll start in the back. I did see a service for the rear brakes. So they did a pad slap. There's a small lip on the rotor, but that's not a big deal. They probably did a brake fluid flush at some point because the rubber cap is missing. Like I said before, there's a little bit of surface rust on the control arm, not an issue. There's a slight bit of seepage on the rear axle, nothing we're gonna worry about. Bushings look fine. Ooh. Gonna need to put a set of shocks on the back of it. The exhaust got shoved into the shock and put a big dent in it. So that might keep the piston from going up and down. Those are cheap, so we'll throw a pair of those on it. Same thing with this rotor. Yeah, everything looks fine in the back. Let's see what we've got up here. Some weather-checked rubber. Not an issue. Everything looks fine there. Ooh, those rotors are trashed. Got big grooves in them. See how the pads are. The pads are getting low. So we'll do pads and rotors on the front. Strut looks fine. No leaks anyway. I haven't actually driven it on the road yet, so we'll have to do that in a little bit. See if it's got any other issues. I think that one's okay. It might be starting to get a little oily there. We'll road test it to see. Transmission looks dry, as you would expect for a replacement transmission. And that rotor's pretty bad. The pads aren't terrible, but those rotors are grooved really bad. Bushings look the same on this side. Let's get under it and check for any leaks. Everything's dry over here. Ooh. It's a little wet there from something. And over here. Let's see where that's coming from. It's fairly wet up towards the top of the engine. I'll have to get it down to the ground. Kind of wet there. Let's see, its sway bar is pretty oily. The PTU output, that's dry. Back of the engine's dry. The power steering line's pretty wet, but it's hard to tell if it's actually leaking at that connection or if it's running down from somewhere else. Some oil pooling on the bottom of that bracket. Let's take a look from the top side. I would expect that it's full of oil since it just had an oil change, but I know how incompetent dealers are, so they could have not put enough oil in it or put in too much oil. Right towards the top of full. Coolant is full. Now these are generally very good engines, but the Achilles heel is the water pump that's driven by the timing chain. So when that goes, you got to do a timing job. It's a real pain. So fingers crossed. I didn't see in the Carfax that it had been done, so hopefully we don't have that issue. I've already disconnected our air box here, so let's see how our air filter is. It could stand to be changed. It's pretty dirty. And it's a little oily in the V. Actually, fairly oily in the V. Yeah, it's a little oily right there at the valve cover. I think the back valve cover gasket is leaking. But again, it's an old car. It's not dripping on the ground, so I'll probably just clean it up and then tell Dad to keep an eye on it, and his mechanic can deal with it if he needs to. Our power steering fluid's at min, so that needs to be topped off. How bad does it look? Well, the pump isn't whining. It doesn't sound like a 2000s Ranger going. So I think I have some power steering fluid. We'll top it off, and that'll be good. Yeah, coolant's full. Really isn't much. The Carfax showed it had spark plugs done, so really not a lot to do with it. We'll check the cabin filter, see how dirty it is. Maybe it needs a cabin filter, but not really a lot to do. Let's check the brake fluid too. Oh yeah, that was definitely done. It's clear. If that was original, it'd be black. Good. We're not gonna mess with that. Now, you can do a brake fluid check to see if it has any water in it. I don't have one of those testers, but it looks fine. All right, let's go for a quick drive here. Seems to shift okay. All right, up to 60. Tracks down the road straight. Our heated seats are working on both sides. Let's see about our ventilated seats. The heat works. Automatic climate control works. Yeah, it's hard to tell if the vent is working. But our radio should work since we replaced all the speakers.
Classic Rock 101.1.
Yeah, that's working. Yeah, I can't tell if the ventilated seats are working. That seems to drive okay. I don't hear any suspension clunks or anything. Runs well, came up to temperature. So mechanically, I think it's pretty solid. Stomp on the brakes here. It stops straight and smooth, but those front rotors, as you saw, they're pretty bad. Now let's check our rear parking sensors. Make sure those are still working. Yep, that's working. Well, let's see. Windows all work. Heated and cooled seats, I think, work. Let's see. All right, steering wheel buttons work. Let's see. All of our interior lights work. Somebody replaced them with LEDs, but they work. All right, our memory seats work. And it's a very interesting position. Okay, well, let's step outside and make sure all of the lights work after I reset this seat. Let's check our lights. Our puddle light is working, and somebody put some red LEDs in there for some reason. Interesting. All right, marker light's working, fog light, parking light. Looks like we got a low beam out. Everything's working over here. Ugh. I'm not bothering with it. All right, marker light. Yep, that works. Our light bar works. Those work. I hear the AC compressor kicking on, so that works. All right, got a license plate light. Let's check our high beams. High beams are working. So it looks like we just need a license plate light and a low beam bulb. Well, now that we're back in the garage and it's quiet, let's see if the cooled seats are working. All right, passenger side one is. Yep, driver side one is too. All right, so far, I think everything is working. Got vanity lights working. The auto dimming rear view mirror was working. Same with the outside dimming mirror. I don't know what else I have to check. I think everything is working. So we got two maintenance items to check before I start cleaning the interior, and the first one's the cabin air filter. The glove box, you just undo the damper cable here, push in both sides of the box, it rotates down, and then take the cover off of the front and pull out the cabin filter. And that is the cheesiest, chintziest cabin filter I've ever seen. But it looks like it has been replaced recently, so we don't need to do that. That's good. I'll put that back together later. And then the other thing are the tires. So we've got good tread on the back. They are 2021 dated, so they're about 4 years old now. But they're not weather checked. They were quiet when I drove it, so they should be okay. Front ones, I've got a depth gauge. I haven't checked that yet, but they've got plenty of tread on them. They're nowhere near the wear bars. And these are date coded 2019, so these are a bit older. But again, they're not weather checked. They weren't loud, so we'll let it run. Dad can replace them if he wants to. I don't see a need to replace them right now. So let's get this back together and then clean up the interior. Let's take a look at the interior before I actually clean it. Carpets aren't bad, just needs a vacuum pretty much. Passenger seat, not torn or anything, just needs to be cleaned up. The dash is in nice shape. I already cleaned up the bezel and the center area before I put it back together. Console just needs a cleaning. Same with the door panel, it's just dirty. Now the first thing I'm going to do, somebody went and put some blackout tint on this car, and they tinted the back windows too, so you can't even see in the back. But the front windows, I'm getting rid of this shit. I hate dark tint. They tinted the windshield too. And back seat, very clean. That'll just take some minimal cleaning. Trunk area is very clean too, so they kept a piece of carpet in the back. Back of the seats, I'm probably not going to worry about that. There's some sort of stain on it. Same thing on this side, just some cleaning of the door panel and the seat. That should clean up nice. The carpet's not too bad. And it does have the factory carpet floor mats, and those are in really nice shape, especially for being beige. Yeah, those will clean up easily. And the driver's seat is always the dirtiest. But again, nothing is broken or destroyed on the door, it just needs to be cleaned. And the same with the seat, even being almost 20 years old and 112,000 miles, it's not tore up. It's getting a little thin right there, but this thing will clean up really nice. Seatbelt isn't bad. So it shouldn't take too much to get this into a really nice shape. But first, the tint. Surprisingly, it only took a couple of hours, but you may notice that I ended up removing all of the tint. I started with the driver door and the tint peeled off really easy. It left hardly no residue behind. So I figured, well, let me try the windshield. So I did that. It left a decent amount of adhesive behind. So it took probably a half hour to get all of the adhesive off of the windshield, but the rest of the windows peeled off pretty easy, and back window as well. So to get the glue off, I love this stuff. So rapid remover. I've used that on a lot of different things for taking paint marker and adhesives, whatever off. It doesn't hurt the paint or anything like that. So I wetted a towel and wiped the glass. So I'm not sure if it'll hurt the plastic of the interior, so I didn't want to get the spray all over the interior. So I wetted a towel, wetted the glue, let it sit for a few seconds, and then took a razor blade and scraped off most of the glue, and then came back with a fresh towel wetted with rapid remover and wiped off the residue. Did that a few times and then came back with glass cleaner and cleaned it. And it came out really nice. It looks like a vehicle that some fine, upstanding boomers would drive. Rear window, don't use the razor blade. You'll end up cutting the rear window defogger grid that's in there. So that one you have to put a little more elbow grease into, but the rest of it just wipes off. With the glass done, I'll come in with the vacuum up all the floors, and then we'll attack the rubber, plastic, vinyl. I guess we can call this leather. It's probably painted polyurethane leather, but that should clean up nice. Vacuum is done. So here is the cleaner that I'm going to be using on all of the plastics, rubber, vinyl. It's Express Interior Cleaner. Bought it on Amazon. It works really, really well, especially on beige interiors. Now the detailing is complete on the MKX. Again, if I was reselling this, it would go to the PDR guy. He would get all the dings out of it. I would have the front and the rear bumpers redone. I would buff out the exterior, but we're not doing that today, considering where it's going. But man, for an almost 20-year-old car, it doesn't look bad. The wheels are clean. The body shines pretty nice. Obviously the rear bumper looks shitty, but still not bad. Yeah, this is a good looking car for the money. Once I'm finished with everything, we'll go through the money, but let's take a look at the inside. This cleaned up really well. Door panels, all of the grime came off. Back seat pretty much looks like new. I didn't do anything with the carpet other than vacuum it, but that's fine. Driver door, obviously that was the worst. It came out really nice. And same with the seat, it was the worst. And it doesn't look terrible. The bottom still looks a little bit grimy, but again, we're doing a wholesale reconditioning here. But the steering wheel cleaned up really nice. So it has a nice matte finish on the leather now. All of the grime came off of it. Looks really good. Same with the center console. That looks nice. I've got the floor mat in the back. Same on the passenger side. Clean carpet, clean seat, clean door panel. A little bit of staining on the carpet, but whatever. Passenger seat looks really nice. The dash looks perfect. So I'm not going to complain about this for the amount of effort I put into it. It was only a few hours to get the tint off of it and to clean it. It looks a lot better without that blackout tint on it. So we'll get it back in the garage and order up some parts. My parts have arrived. I've got a pair of front disc brakes. These are coated against rust. I've got Bosch pads. I've got a Denso engine air filter, and I've got a pair of Monroe rear shocks. Now to replace the rear shocks, I've already got the trim kind of out of the way, so it just unclips, and then right there is our upper shock mount, and then one bolt down there, and hopefully they drop out pretty easily, and I can swap them over. Shocks are done, everything's back together. A simple 20-minute job, just a couple tools. And these are original. The passenger side one is the one, let's see, that one's the driver's side. So the passenger side one is the one that was hit by the exhaust, and it's got a slight bend in it, and it still moves down to the dent, and then it stops, but it doesn't spring back either, so it was dead anyway. Those were cheap, easy to swap. Battery has been replaced. I already swapped the engine air filter. So now the next thing are the brakes. These should be really simple. I've done front brakes on a number of Fords. Front brakes are done. Very easy job, especially when you're working on a car that isn't from up north. So growing up, living in Northeast Ohio, helping my dad do brake jobs, front pads and rotors could end up taking 2 or 3 weekends, involving torches, sledgehammers, a couple people, and threatening to push the car outside and burning it to the ground so it can go back to hell where it belongs. But here, battery impact, and about 20 minutes and you can swap this over. Mechanical stuff is done on the car now. Throw the wheels on it, take it for a quick drive, and then we can finish up the video talking about the cost. All right, to finish out this video, let's talk about how much the car actually cost. So $1,877 is auction winning bid plus all of the fees. So our parts, $749. That includes all of the LKQ parts and all of the maintenance parts. Title fees, $87.50. So all in, to get the car running and driving well, maybe not looking very good, or looking its best, but running and driving well, $2,714. So with shipping, that brings the total to $3,340. So that's really not a bad price for a pretty decent car, especially being a winter beater up there. Up in Northeast Ohio, that's probably a $5,000–6,000 car when Dad gets the bumpers repainted. So there's definitely room to clean it up the rest of the way and drive it for a little while and then resell it. So with that, this project is done. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel to keep up with other projects going on around the shop.